thanks everyone for coming. I'm really excited to have Alberto here with us today. I've known Alberto now for, I think, maybe 2 or 3 years.
3 years.
3 years, yeah. He's a very generous host to me when I'm in Argentina. I stay at his house. He cooks me great food. Yeah. He takes me to his project in the prison, which is one of the most, it's the most remarkable thing I've ever seen. To kind of see the, not just, I was about to say the community, but it's beyond that. It's kind of the level of engagement, the level of debate that they have. Like last time I was there was an incredible debate about sort of the way in which they just run themselves collectively and autonomously, and that's so important to what they do. It's not just about, as we're going to hear, it's not just about what they produce, it's how they produce it, and that's the most impressive thing about this community that's been going for 15 years now. So I'm really honoured to have Alberto here.
Thank you.
So just a brief background for those of you who maybe didn't hear or weren't here this morning. With the particular group Convenors, which is part of a maximum security prison in Argentina, there's this group sort of led by Alberto for the last 15 years, which has published over 35,000 of these books. And they've done all that through kind of autonomous, self-organized work. They only give away the books, they don't sell them, so there's no profit involved. And it's in fact the only permanent project like this in a maximum security prison. One of the kind of interesting things that happens is that Alberto kind of, to a degree, increasingly gets support from people like us abroad in kind of foreign universities, but continues to receive virtually no support in Argentina. So that's kind of one of the contradictions that we're playing with here. The fact that it's great to have this visibility and great to have this institutional support, but there's kind of a whole work on the ground which is really important to this as well. So without further ado, I'll pass over to Alberto.
Well, thank you, Oliver and Joy, for the invitation. It's an honor for me to be here. First of all, my English is not very good. Sometimes I confuse the past and the present, so if there's some problem with me, please ask me and I repeat what I'm trying to say. I found this publisher house, Cuenteros, Verseros y Poetas, because I am really angry with my time, with my reality. I don't believe in what we have, the idea of justice. I don't believe in the idea of law. And I think that the only way to have something really similar to justice or truth, we have to fight for it, because we don't understand what is happening to the other, to the different, to the faggot, to the poor, to the black, to the brown, like we said in South America. If we only stand in our community of Cartesian and intellectual friends or groups, we have to involve our body in the front line. That's my militancy, that's my fight. So I realized this when I was in the University of Law. And I studied and I believed that the law and the justice were something similar. And I said, then I'm working like a lawyer. I realized that the law is a fraud. That's what I believe, that the law is a fraud. So I want to transmit my ideas and my experience by 4 stories that I lived in jail, or first how I go there in jail, and after those experiences, perhaps to think together how we can change somehow our reality. Well, first of all, I had the first time I went to a jail was in 1996. I was a student of law, and was one of my last years student there, and my teacher took us to visit a very dangerous jail in Argentina. It's called Olmos. No, not almost, Olmos. It's a neighborhood in La Plata, Olmos. It's one of the most dangerous and popular jails in Argentina. We went there with a group of students of law, and we enter and we went to the 5th floor. There are 5th floor in that jail, and when we were there, we realized that it was really not so dirty. There were students of lawyer, there were students of journalism, and the people came, talked to us, and it was a really good space to live. And I said, well, that's amazing. Then we were there, 30 minutes, and then the director, well, this is the end, we have to go. And my teacher says, no, we have to visit all the jail. And there was a discussion between my teacher and the director. And the director says, it's very dangerous, blah, blah, blah. And the bureaucracy, and my teacher, who was a prosecutor, says, well, if you don't want to visit all the jail, I will have to call the judge or the governor. I have to access to them, and we will have a problem here. So, well, the director accepted to go to the 1st floor. The 1st floor almost is very famous. I realized that, and yes, then it was a kind of getaway to hell. I saw in the 1st floor of almost, in the floor there was water up to 10 centimeters of water all year. So all the year you go to your bed, you put your feet in the floor, and you have water. And it was winter, it was really cold, and and the faces of the prisoners were with scars, and they don't have teeth, most of them, and there was a smell. I write that in a book. Then I felt the stench of death when I talked to them, because they talk and they smell like death, because they will die, in a month or days. And it was awful. And then we went to the 2nd floor, and it's even worse. There was the windows without video.
Without glass.
With glass. So it was really cold. We were really. I was shocked. And my partners were shocked too. And we talked with the prisoners about the food, and they said they didn't have food from the jail. The food was from their family. Because the food of the jail was a disaster. It was really putrefaction, And so we returned to university then, and we began to talk. And the teacher said, "Well, what your experience?" And the first 5 minutes, my partner says, "Well, oh, what a disaster! What a disaster!" And then, 15 minutes later, well, we have to go to the party next to Boca and River, the soccer playing football, and I was even shocked with that with the prison, because that was a kind of, in a way, epiphany of what I believe, why I live in now. Because I go every Wednesday to the jail, and I try to say what the shit I believe there, the torture, the oppression, are not oh, well, okay, that's not, we have to stop that. And in the students of law, talking about soccer, 15 minutes later of the discussion, and I took 2 decisions in those moments. I said, well, I will never work as a criminal law, and that promise, I do it, and then I will never return to jail, because a jail is a hell. The jail is, you can't live 2 minutes there. And well, I think that was a kind of a way to say to myself, you have to return, guy. You have to return. but I said in that moment, I said, never ever I will return to a place like this. That was 1986. In 1987, it begins the second story. How do I do to broke that promise? 1987,
You graduated.
I graduated as a lawyer, began to work. I was the only lawyer in my family, so I didn't have any contacts, any clients, and I began to circle all around El Conurbano Bonaerense. It's a zone of little localations near Capital Federal, poor localation cities, you know, Los Zamora, San Martín, Quilmes, Ciudad Evita, Matanza. There's places with a lot of shanty towns, you know. And I began to go there because a lot of lawyers from La Plata didn't want to work in those places, so I took the train, go for those places, and I began to work as a lawyer. In those few years, then I made, look, it's very strange, no? A magister of enterprise lawyer, so it's in the most important academy in Argentina. No, it's real strange what I do in the past. And then in Argentina came the 2001 disruption. You know, we talked this morning about bankruptcy in the country. Was a bankruptcy at all. The neoliberal decisions, the neoliberal politics brought to Argentina in a hell. It was a disaster. Millions of people get poor in a few years, you know, and it was a disaster. Other millions of people lost all the ahorros, all the savings in the banks because the banks didn't give them money. I didn't have any money, so I didn't lose anything, but it was something that shocked me because the social situation was a disaster. So I began to work in shanty towns, trying to help people as a lawyer. You know, I work with my work, but then I go there like for free to start to help with giving, I don't know, a kind of counsel for their rights, how to defend their rights and whatever. But that's the moment that I realized that the law is a fraud, because if you don't have money to go with the lawyer in that moment, at that situation, wherever, I tell you what the law says, you know, your rights are this and that and that. But then when these poor people goes to the judge or goes to the minister or goes to the hospital to be, oh no, yes, you are right, I got out, because I don't care. You need now, in that moment, you need for each person a lawyer, or whatever, you have to call the lawyer or whatever, and then perhaps you have good luck. But if you're poor, you are poor. If you're poor, you are nothing. In Argentina and in the world, if you are poor, if you are a faggot, if you are the different, you are nothing. And I lived that situation, that horrible situation. I said, what happened with the law? What happened, and that's the idea. The law is for the magister of enterprise, and that works because with my knowledge, I would be very good to defend a bank or a CEO or for an enterprise. But if I had to work for poor people, I could do it, and I'm sure I could do it very well for minutes, because at last they always lost, because the law is against them. When in 2001 the banks destroyed the savings of people, now even one banker goes in jail, but millions of poor people who goes for robbery, to food and to feed their family, goes to jail, and the jail was full of poor people. And I realized that I remember I read a lot. I love to read, no? And I love to read literature and philosophy. And Plato says in the Republic something in voice of Thrasymachos. that justice is the imposition of the powerful. And then Plato, all the Republic, tried to destroy that argument of Thrasymachus. But I read the Republic and Plato fails because Thrasymachus says the truth. Justice is the imposition of the powerful. So if I had to change this shit of reality that I had in Argentina, I had to work not like a lawyer. I have to work with other things. And I decide to do something for the side of my desires, you know? My desires, literature or philosophy or boxing, because I practiced box and I was a boxer. And so I was right, in those moments that I was in contact with, in shanty towns, I got contact with a lot of cartoneros, cardboards, collectors. And in this way, I began to write a novel. I love to write. I try to be a novelist, and my first novel was published by Hurto in Loisa Cartonera. So when I published my first novel, I said, this is, from this part must be the changes. From my desire, my passion, and literature. In that moment, I thought in the past that the literature could change, it could change things. I would say something that perhaps, I was so stupid that I believed that literature or philosophy could change something. And that is the worst, it's more fraud that than the lawyers, you know? Well, I thought that from literature something would change. So I said, I will do a cartonera in the worst part of my society. The worst. I don't know why I punish myself in that way. I really don't know even now why. But I have the necessity to go to the shittest in the shit, you know? The profound shit. And I remember almost. And I said that in that place we have to change things, because the problem, I knew that the problem was not almost the jail. The problem was outside almost. We are the problem. The problem is not the prisoners. We are the problem. In that day, I knew that. So I called friends I had in the Ministry of Justice, and I said, I want to do this for free. I don't want money. I want to go there and to teach how to do books with cardboard, and to teach to read, to write, and if I could, philosophy. Okay, not in La Plata, because La Plata, there's a lot of group of the university or whatever, but in Florencio Varela nobody wants to go. So there's a place there. Okay, 1 hour, I don't know. I didn't know why nobody wants to know, then I realized why. It was the worst jail in all Argentina. It's the more hacinada. No es popular, no.
Overcrowded.
Yes.
What?
Overcrowded.
Overcrowded. Where most people die because of violence and because of problem of I didn't know that in that moment, but the truth is I didn't care, because I need to do something. You know, when your country is destroyed, as Argentina, it's impossible to see to other place. It's impossible to from my thinking, and I impulse to do something, whatever. And so that was my idea. So I went there. My friend said, "Well, perfect. Next month we began. Go there. I prepared the papers and whatever, but you go. You know, like bien Argentina. Bien, go, and then we will see, and then we will write a signature and whatever." So I began to teach literature there. It was my first time in my life that I anything because I never teach anything in my fucking life, you know. And well, but I love books. So if I love books, I thought that I could talk about my desire and perhaps it's contagious. I don't know. I was really an idiot, but well, it functioned. You know, I took my books and I began with my books when I was a child, because I told them I loved those books when I was a child. Perhaps your children love these books. And I began to talk about the books and wherever, and the students saw me, and in the first class one said, the director said that we came here to learn about furniture, how to do furniture. Well, no, that's a lie. It's me and it's books. So, okay, whatever. We want to go out of the pavilion. So whatever you said, we will stay here. They said so to lose the time on the hell is the pavilion. You know, because when you go to teach in all the jails, in all the places, there's a place for the prisoners and there's a place for education or for health of wherever. And there are two universes totally different, you know. I realized that when I was teaching there, that it was like the fifth floor of the jail, the fifth floor of almost. I was lying to myself if I teach in that place. Because I knew when I began to teach that the problems of my students, they had to return to the pavilion to fight for the food, to fight for the clothes, to fight. And how can we talk about Shakespeare when your student had to return to a place that perhaps he will die, like it's happened? Again, that's bullshit. That's the education we have in all the jails, in all the world, that you have here in Britain, and in the United States. You have the universes separate, and then the universe of the hell, the universe of the dead, the universe of the black. So at 6 months, my student said, "You have to come to the pavilion when we are." And I said, "Yes, I need to go there, and it's the only way." And in those, when they go from the pavilion to the student center, they have 100 meters, whatever. And in those places, the guards saying, "Oh, you, maricón."
A homophobic slur.
Homophobic because you want to learn poetry or whatever. And they fight with the guards, and so I had 15 students, they came 4, because it was a disaster. And I want to change this is my problem. If you want to do something, you have to change real things. It's bullshit. It's not, oh, let's go to help poor people. No, that's not the idea. That's the idea of the colonists. You know, let's go to help the Indians or let's go to help the black people, or go the other, the different. And then we came here with, the philosophy of Socrates, and you will be now an Occidental guy who learned how to. That's shit. They have their stories, they have their lives, and I was there teaching, and I began to shut my mouth and begin to hear. And I begin to learn, and I begin to unlearn. And when you unlearn a bit of Plato, a bit of Aristoteles, a bit of Wittgenstein, a bit of Hegel, perhaps it begins to enter to your body the suffering of that people. When he told you that his mother is in the jail in the front port, and is abused by the bodyguard, and you have two choices. Oh well, poor guy, or go and fight for the right of your student. At that moment, I didn't understand that part, because how can I do this, or what I do? But the first thing, it begins my change when I entered to the pavilion. I want to talk to the director of the prison, and I said, I want to be there, and it's impossible. Nobody do that. It's illegal, and if you enter there, I can't defend yourself, but they want, I don't need your defense. So he came with me to talk. only the director and me go to the front of the pavilion, enter to that part, call the limpieza, the cleaners. The cleaners are the leaders of the pavilion. All the pavilions have autonomy and have their rules. The police don't enter there. When they enter, they get with guns, and I don't know, an hour fighting to enter. It's a autonomy territory, And they call the cleaners, and you invite Alberto? Yes, we invite Alberto. We want him to be there. Well, you know something? I don't care anything about the life of Alberto, the security of Alberto. I want my pension. And if something happened to Alberto, I lost my pension. So you must take care of Alberto, not for Alberto, because I fucked up in Alberto. I don't care about this guy. I need my pension. So if something happened to him, everybody here will die. That was the war, You go into La Patagonia and I will kill you one by you. But if he's right, I have my pension, we are all right. We shake hands? Yes, we shake hands. And up to that moment, I entered the pavilion where in that moment there was a lot of problem of violence and whatever. And time by time, shouting in my mouth and hearing, we began together in assembly, community assembly, deciding what we want or what we don't want. Here I have two stories in that part, so that's part of the third story. Then when I was in the pavilion, there's in the middle of the class we have a lot of problems, little riots in other pavilions or fightings, and then many times I am giving a class and I have people shooting, because they enter with the guns, and it's really te acostumbras.
You get used to it.
You
get used to it.
You have to use to.
As well, a pavilion is the term for a cell block.
Yes.
It's like a part of
the pavilion. It's a big cell blocks with blocks for 20 persons. There we have near 60. 60. Because the superpopulation. And it's very common to have riots, huelgas de hambre,
like hunger
strikes, and wherever. And as I have some idea of lawyer, I have in those hunger strikes, or I am in defending the rights of my students or the prisoners. So we negotiate with authorities, and it's usually normal in my work to do that. It's not the work of a teacher, but it's the work of a teacher I like to be. But then in 2020 we have a real heavy and horrible motin.
Like kind of a riot.
A riot, well, a big riot, It was a riot because it was the end of the pandemic, and the prisoners didn't saw the families for a year and a half. It was really a bad situation, and there was a political mistake of the chief of the penitentiary service. He told to all the prisoners, next week we will open the visits. So in Saturday, in one Monday said, in Saturday, your family could visit in all the provincia de Buenos Aires, A visit for a poor people is something really important, because it's poor people who all the money they had, they buy food and clothes for their sons or for their husband or whatever. Usually almost all the visits are women, mothers or wives. And when they have that decision, millions of people buy food and earn a lot of money because in half of a year they didn't see their son or whatever. But what happened? Xavier Areces was the chief of the penitentiary service who says that decision, he took this decision. But the Minister of Health didn't know anything. And he said, no, That's impossible. We can't do that because we will have a problem, more infection or whatever. And the governor says, well, here the rules is the Minister of Health. So Xavier says that it's an irresponsible who says that, oh, what, I fucked up, well, whatever. He called to the director of all the provinces and said, tell to the prisoners we don't want to do the visit. And the director said, you are mad, it's impossible. They call him the Wednesday, 2 days. 2 days later, all the families began to buy money. They are wishing to see their family. You can't do again and say no to that decision. It's impossible. And Arisa says yes. That's the decision. The governor says that whatever. Solution is a solution from the penitentiary service. So here began another problem. The penitentiary service, the kind of servicio, the service, they try to do a coup d'etat against Areces because they are not agree with that decision. So they want jail by jail talking to the prisoners saying, Areces says now that they don't want the visit. If you make a riot or whatever, we don't going to repress. Repress. Because he's a mad guy. And I knew this because a lot, I don't know, 20, 30 prisoners from different jails called me and said, Alberto, the director here in Sierra Chica says that my family can visit me, and they say that if we do a riot, they don't do it. No, don't enter in that. That's a booby trap. That's a trap. You know, the decision is to take it away, but they want blood. They want dead people because they want to do a coup d'etat, a charlo. It's political problem between the penitentiary service and the chief of the penitentiary service. You know, you understand that is a stupid idea. And I begin to write to journalists and say there will be a massacre in 2 days because the families is now many families came from the north of the country to go to the jail, and nobody listened to me, you know. And my Facebook I put what I said. Areces I called the minister, you know, and nobody received my calls. And in Saturday began the riots. The riots prepared by the institution, you know, and it began. So Areces knew that there was a coup d'etat, so he prepared a special squad of repression from La Plata, and he went jail by jail, destroying the jails. And I was in my backyard calling to my people, say, don't go to the roof, because when a prisoner go to the roof, it's a signal that you took that pavilion, you know, and you put like a flag, something like that. And my wife saw me almost crying, calling this, no, don't enter in this movie. I said, you want to go to the jail? My jail was in a riot, in the middle of the riot. Yes, I said, yes, if you won't go. I had 2 child, you know, a riot, violent riot in the worst jail of Argentina. And she said, if you want to go, I accept your decision. And I said, yes, I need to go because I knew that I could solve the problem without violence. But the violence just, I don't know, it begins at morning of Saturday, and at that moment was the morning of the Sunday, you know. I went with no permission because I can't take the car in the street because of the pandemic, but I went there, and in the front of the port, in the puerta, the gate door, it was the director who saw me and crying, said, thank you for coming. I don't want to repress anymore. We tried to enter and they don't want to enter. And look at the squad. I saw the squad from La Plata who was like with the jabs like this, because you know they had cocaine up to here, 2 days repression. They only and shouting with the escudo. Yes, the shields, and because to enter today, to have the courage to enter, And he said, I don't want that guy sent to my prison, you know, to my. So I enter, and the only symbol that the prisoners accept to enter was me. So they say, came, and I began to. I don't do anything, you know. I was there, and I go to the pavilion, and when my students say me, what the fuck are you doing here? Get out with your family. You will be dead in a few minutes. No, I'm still here, and we wanted to solve this shit. We are going to solve this shit together. And one by one came, we have a hug, and I said, we will solve. And if there's a problem, I stay here because we will solve. But this is not, I'm talking, I hear him and say, that's, how can I play? I knew that it was easy to solve because I knew the actors of the scene, you know. I knew the penitentiaries, I knew the prisoners, and I knew how this shit was made, and I knew that if we talk together with all the different pavilions, we will stop, you know. We will stop, and that's what happened. And I don't do anything. I stay here and say, well, who knows people in Pavilion 1? I know, well, you call them, and, you know, because when you are in a riot, almost the service, penitentiary service, and the prisoners, if the police is going to enter, if you have drugs, you consume all the drugs at that moment. So that was the only problem that I had. I had to negotiate with many people who was hasta acá de cocaína. Era un quilombo. Bueno, but that problem was a problem between them because, I don't know, I have a friend, a student who talked with a friend in the Pavilion 2. And I had another friend who talked with the Pavilion 8. And I began to drink mate with a group of students there in the pavilion. And I only take a picture of what we have to negotiate. More food. Of course, families. We have to, yes, families. In this week, not the family. What more? Los medicamentos. Yeah. Medications. But 10 points, or it was 12 points. And talk with your partner in Pavilion 1. And 5 hours later, we get out with the Commission of Prisoners and I, and we talk with the representative of the Minister of Justice, and we stop the riot. And you know, the worst thing of all is the only thing that lo tengo en la mochila. Not even one newspaper says anything about that, because the governor was a peronista, was a kind of from the left, but the press is from right. So nobody wants to talk about the more than 1,000 torture cases that were. This is the only, la Comisión Provincial de la Memoria, that have taken this book, who told all the shit that we lived those 2 days. I talked with La Nación, Página 2, Infobae, all the newspaper, and said yes, but you know, the editorial line says we don't talk about what happened. And it was the worst repression in all the history. You know, I think there were 15 guys without eyes because the police shot to the faces, and then when he came to the floor, even continued shooting. And when I talk about what I do in that riot, I have to say that I was teaching, because it's what a teacher must do. And when I talk to a teacher, says, "No, you are mad. That's not a part of." Yes, because that's to teach. You can't teach to someone who you don't know what the problems had, not in the house with the wife, or no, his society. Because, as I said, all my students, all in my 15 years, are poor guys, poor people. Not even one guy from middle class. I had in Argentina and in Brazil, the 99% of the prisoners are poor people, black people. We talk about in Argentina los nadies, los marrones, los negros, los abandonados.
The nobodies.
no, the nobodies, you know, and there are millions, and we don't even know what they believe, what they feel, and you don't even know how you have to cross that a lot of lines if you want to be justice. That's justice. That justice is be against the law, because everything what I do, everything is illegal. The video that you see, the film Pavilion 4 is illegal. It was illegal to enter a camera, and I said, no, well, then we will put, ¿cómo se pixelado? Pixel in the faces. Nada, a la mierda. Era mentira, ilegal. And ya está, ya lo hiciste, la cagada. ¿Y quién te va? Who? You know, but that to be a teacher. The teacher is to go against the rule, because the rules are made to the imposition of the powerful. There's no justice if you believe in the white man Anglo-Saxon justice. If you believe in the justice of Cambridge, let's say what I say. If you believe in the law of Cambridge, well, that's not justice. As a South American, as Argentinian, I said that not even is near of justice. You know, well, and the last story, I think that me fue la mierda, ¿no?
Do
Well,
as you want.
the last story is about the line, crosses line. You know, we have this guy, a student, Jorge. Jorge was had a few years later tuberculosis, and it's very common in our jails to have tuberculosis, syphilis, a lot of medieval illnesses, you know, but we have in Argentina. It was winter, and he began to cough and to bloody cough. So I stopped the class and said, we have to talk with the doctor and isolate, because tuberculosis, you have to be isolated not to contagion a lot of your partners. And he said, yes, Alberto, and took the medicine, you know, because there's a special medicine that if you took that medicine, it's solved. The problem is solved. It's really, nowadays, it's really easy to solve the problem of tuberculosis. But if not, you die. And I lost many students by tuberculosis. So Jorge goes out to see the doctor, and I continue with the class. And I don't know, 20 minutes later, Jorge returns to the class and said, no, the doctor said I don't have a crisis of tuberculosis. It's a problem of of the stomach, you know, a problem. I said, last year you have a crisis of tuberculosis, and now you are coughing. And how did he touch or suck? He just used, no, he looked at me and said, no, you don't have tuberculosis. So I went, well, wait a minute. I stopped the class, stay here, Jorge, I go to talk with the doctor. The doctor was Matias, a very a racist guy. We know nobody wants him. He was a guy, a doctor, like all the doctors I had in jail. You know, the worst people I saw in jail is not the guards, are the doctor and the psychologist. In my experience, the worst. They are part of the institution. They believe in the racist rules and they act in consequences. I went there to talk with Matias. That this doctor, you know, was a rugby player, very big. He really, you know, in Argentina, rugby is a sport who plays people with money.
It's similar.
Well, but that's not tiene nada que ver. Bueno, he was there and said, Matias, Jorge had tuberculosis. Well, but I don't have anything to know if he is in crisis. But come on. Last year has tuberculosis. We give the medicine and he solved the problem, and now he's coughing with blood. How could you know that? Well, Alberto, you are teacher and I am doctor. So go out. No, blah, 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 with the one. I want to talk with the director. And the director accepts my presence and says, that guy, Matthias, is the son of the bitch, you know, but I can't do anything because there's a bureaucracy problem. The directors of the jail can't have facultades sancionatorias, or they can't give orders to the doctors, you know, because the doctor only obey to the Secretary of Health of the province. It's a bureaucracy stupid idea. I don't care. But I said, well, but we have a problem. I had a guy. Well, let me. Perhaps I convinced him, and wherever in this week I took Jorge and I put in a hospital in the street outside of the jail. So I returned to the other Wednesday. I called Friday, and Jorge says yes. They said that tomorrow or tomorrow I will go into the hospital. Oh, perfect. I thought we will solve the problem. And the other Wednesday I go all the Wednesdays, and I returned, and Jorge was in his cell. You know, all the pavilion has a lot of cells. He was in his cell with a lot of fever, with un tacho de sangre, un balde,
loads of blood.
a lot of blood. You know, he was very, very bad. He was all wet, and he was like this, shaking because of the fever. And my head it was a minute. You know, I saw him and I ran out. I went to the space of the doctor, and in that space there was the little space. You know, I enter, and Matthias saw me, and he began to shout, calling the guards. But the guards who saw me run because they know me, didn't go because they realized that perhaps, and nobody wants that guy, Matthias. And it doesn't matter what happened in those moments, but something happened, and Jorge went to hospital. And at that day I returned to my house. First I took my little daughter from the school. I went to my house and I went to my bed, and I began to shake because what I live and what I made. And what I made was that I crossed the line. And what I made that if you are in a torture center, I don't call, in Argentina I don't call jail. I talk here jail, but in Argentina, cárcel, penitenciaría, I say all the time, you know, centro de tortura. For me, and I explain why. When you are in torture center, when you are in Auschwitz, you can't be talking with the guards, look what Jacques Rousseau said about the social contract. No, you have to use other weapons. And the violence is one of the tools that you have in a torture center. Violence, like a kind of psychological violence. When I talk with a director, I say, you will lose your pension because if you don't solve this problem of health with that guy, I do it a lot of time that. And the people said, oh, Alberto Sarlo is sure he had a lot of contacts in the ministry or the governor, and I said, yes. And I said, many times I took my phone and said, look at this, Julio Lac is the name of the Minister of Justice. But that name is a number of my uncle, you know, or whatever. I have that, I do that threats, and that's violence psychological, because I will call in a few minutes, and you motherfucker, I will do it. And I talk, it's a military guy, So, as I said, it's horrible what I want to say, but I would say there's no more coward people than the people who live that kind of stratas, military stratas. Because when you're up, you lo pisas. But when you are up, that guy, he don't know. Alberto, he has power, not power. So I always win. In 15 years, I never ever lost a discussion with a guard or with a director, because I put the discussion at certain level of violence, psychological. But then there's another violence, the physical violence. What the fuck we have to do with violence in a torture center? What in a torture center? We are part of the problem, or we solve problems? Because I solved a problem with Jorge. I saved the life of Jorge. Because when he went to the hospital, the doctor called the director, said 2 days more and he dies. He was more than 1 month in the hospital in Unidad Coronaria, in the worst part of the hospital. He almost died, but he solved it, and now he has kids, and he's out, and he works, and every Christmas he called me, and he said he's my brother, and wherever, but at the cost of that was to cross the line. And you know, that's right. But if it's right, we have a problem. I have a problem, a personal problem with me, but the society have a problem with what they do with the teachers who try to save lives. Because there's no other way in some moments to be in the violence way. And again, I said that if we lost one prisoner, half a day, día por medio es el promedio.
Every other day, yeah. Oh yeah.
So it's a genocide, a little bit genocide in my country. So I don't care to say that it's similar, but in different kind of number with I don't know, Auschwitz, okay? And I believe that. So how the hell I could change things there without using the violence? I don't know. It's something that I told you just to know what's the problem we have in South America with our jails. But the question is, in South America only? Do you know what is happening here in the first fucking war with your prisoners? I have a bit of idea. I'm not expert in that. I'm expert in Argentina, but we care about that because, again, that's the problem of everybody, you know. And I finish with this, Joey. I don't. It's not a problem of Florencio Varela and Pabellón 4 or what happened with my health because of all the shit I have to have in the torture center. The problem, first of all, the problem is in the education. Because all my pupils, all the prisoners that, I don't know, the 80% of them are, they don't know how to write or read. Why? Because they were exposed of this education system. We have a system who expel the different, the nadie, the fagot, the poor, the marrón, the negro. They expel. If you have a problem with one, get out. If you have problems of violence, get out. And all in the 15 years I had, all my pupils didn't finish first la primaria, primary school. You know, and because education is the education of, I don't know, 300 centuries. It's the same, and we repeat all the. And what's the solution? Go teachers to the jail. That's not the solution. That's a problem. If we are teachers, if we teach, well, we have to unlearn. We have to unlearn what we learn in the civilization, and we have to be more modest, humble, to understand that the other reality we have to be. That reality must be part of our body. And if you don't defend the rights of your student, you are not a teacher. You are a bureaucrat. That's what I believe. But you know, well, how are you, Alberto? How are you? I'm sick. I'm sick. And I'm really sick. Now in this moment I can't go to the jail for a month because it repeats. All the weeks I have a problem. And again, when a student of mine dies, I know the family, I know the mother, I know the wife, I know them. And you know, and I many times I know he will die. And when you perhaps you do a lot of and you saw one, but then that's the other one. And I know that the way is this is the way. I know that this is the way because there's a lot of money put in other way that is not the way. This is not the way. This is not the way. That's what and when I say this in Argentina, that's a problem because nobody invites me in Argentina. So nobody will invite me in England now to the problem. But that this system is the problem. Not the Argentine system, of course the Argentine system, but your system is a problem. And perhaps many of you are part of the problem. I am part of the problem. I'm sure of that. I'm a lawyer and I know how I am a part of that problem. But we have to realize that we are part of the problem. We have to have the courage to say, yes, we are part of the problem. And perhaps then we could change something. I don't know. That's all. No.
Great.